What's up, everybody? I'm Thomas J. Bellezza, and welcome to The Right Mindset. Today, we are going to go over some things to analyze some dialogue in moments and scenes of stories. I want to look at a scene from Shawshank Redemption, the movie, a Game of Thrones, the book, specifically Song of Ice and Fire, Book 1, and The Rookie, which is a television show. That's a movie, novel, and television show. Basically, we're going to look at the different variations of how dialogue is utilized in each of the mediums. So let's do it. Time for the intro. Boop, boop. If you are new here or you've been watching for quite some time, but you like what you're listening to, maybe you could subscribe. Be awesome, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss out. Get the notifications. All right, so let's get into it. Today's lesson is about analyzing dialogue, specifically moments and scenes. The first thing I would like to jump on is Shawshank Redemption. This scene is from the first time Red and Andy actually speak. Andy Dufresne actually speak to one another. All right, so let's just get that up there. Bloop. All right, obviously I'm going to take that off so you can see. All right, there you go. We're going to look at the scene and then I'm going to analyze it, and then we can do it in real time. Okay. So the first thing is this is the exercise yard. Red plays catch with Haywood and Jigger. Lazily tossing a baseball around. Red notices Andy off to the side, nods hello. Andy nods this, takes this as a cue to amble over. Haywood and Jigger pause, watching. I'm Andy Dufresne, right? Red glances at the hand, ignores it. The game continues. Off killing banker. Why'd you do it? I didn't, since you ask. You're gonna fit right in. Andy looks off. Everyone in here is innocent. Didn't you know that? Haywood, what you in for, right? Haywood, didn't do it. Laura fucked me. Red gives Andy a look. See? Rumor has it, you're a real cold fish. You think your shite smells sweeter than most? Is that right? What do you think? Well, to tell you the truth, I haven't made up my mind. All right, Haywood nods. All right, nudges. We got all. This is all action. We're just looking at dialogue today. I understand you're a man that gets. I understand you're a man that knows how to get things. I'm known to locate certain things from time to time. I wonder if you might get me a rock hammer. A what? A rock hammer. What is it and why? What do you care? Well, if it was a toothbrush, I wouldn't ask questions. I'd just quote a price. But then a toothbrush is a non-lethal object, isn't it? Fair enough. A rock hammer is about 6 or 7 inches long. Looks like a miniature pickaxe. Pickaxe for rocks. Rocks? With a small sharp pick on one end and a blunt hammerhead on the other. It's for rocks. Rocks. Andy tosses red quartz. Quartz, some mica, shale, limestone. So I'm a rock hound. At least in my old life, I'd like to be again on a limited basis. Or maybe you'd like to sink your toe into someone's skull. No, sir. No, I have no enemies here. No? Wait a while. All right. Word gets around. It does. Why does it get around? That's really the question I want to know about. Okay. Word gets around. The sisters have taken quite a liking to you, especially Boggs. I don't suppose it would help any if I explained to them I'm not homosexual. Neither are they. They'd have to be human first. They don't qualify. Bull queers take by force. It's all they want or understand. But if I were you, I'd grow eyes in the back of my head. Thanks for the advice. Well, that's free. But you understand my concern. Well, if there's any trouble, I won't use the rock hammer, okay? Then I guess you want to escape. Tunnel under the wall, maybe? Have I missed something here? What's so funny? You'll understand when you see the rock hammer. What's an item like this usually go for? $7. Any rock and gem shop. Okay. My normal markup's 20%, but this is a specialty item. Risk goes up, price goes up. Let's make it an even $10. 10 it is. All right. Waste of money if you ask me. Why is that? Folks around this joint love surprise inspections. They find it, you're going to lose it. If they do catch you with it, you don't know me. You mention my name, we never do business again. Not for shoelaces or a stick of gum. Now you got that? I understand. Thank you, Mr. Red. Name's Red. Red, why did they call you that? Maybe it's because I'm Irish. Voiceover. I could see why some of the boys took him for snobby. He had a quiet way about him, a walk and a talk that just wasn't normal around here. He strolled like a man in a park without a care or worry in the world, like he had on an invisible coat that would shield him from this place. Resume playing catch. Yeah, I think it would be fair to say I liked Andy from the start. Now, there's a lot going on. Okay, this is five pages in a script that's about 5 minutes. That's a 5 minute scene. Okay, this moment uh is very important. This is in Act One, right? A couple things are going on. We're learning a little bit about Andy Dufresne, right? Uh, he has interests. He is assertive, even though he's quiet, right? Because he approached Red. Okay, what's going on with the dialogue? Wife, killer, banker. We're learning quickly that the prison talks, right? That word gets around quickly. He's only, Andy's been here for what? I think a week. I think he's been here for a week at this point. Um, you know, Red asks him why you do it. So we know Red has that free attitude. He's been here for a while. He's forward as well. So that's interesting that they both have that kind of quality, right? I didn't, since you ask. Now this sets up a running joke throughout the movie. Everyone is innocent here. Didn't you know that? This is also setting. This is the main plot. So if you look at this, okay, one, two, 1, 2, 3, 4. By the fifth piece of dialogue, we're already influencing the main plot in the story. Okay, I mean technically, I'm Andy Dufresne, wife killing banker. This is reference to the main plot. So I would almost say the whole scene, right? Main plot. Why'd you do it? This whole thing, this whole opening is the main plot, right? Boom, right there in the beginning. Okay, now we add a little bit of character. Didn't do it. Lawyer fucked me, right? Hayward is saying that. Okay, but the interesting part about this is that we know Andy Dufresne didn't do it. Okay. Well, actually, at this point, we don't really know that he didn't do it. I mean, we know because we've all seen it. But even, he obviously, the court case in the beginning doesn't really dictate if he, didn't do it. But he's claiming he didn't do it. And we're fueling that, et cetera, et cetera. But we're also building a little bit of who these characters are, the words they're using, the choices. Haywood's obviously coming out. Didn't do it. Laura, fuck me. Right? We get his accent. We understand who he is, right? So let's move on. So what's the next beat we're hitting in the scene? Rumor has it you're a real cold fish. You think your shit smells sweeter than most. Is that right? What do you think? Well, to tell you the truth, I haven't made up my mind. This is actually focused on a subplot, which is ultimately the relationships Andy has with the other inmates. And rumor has it you're a real cold fish. You think you're right. So we're indicating some of the perspective of the prison and how it looks at Andy. All right. So will Andy be able to make friends? Will he be able to get involved with people? Will people respect him or accept him? Right. So this is like a subplot of like his life within the prison. Okay. So the first beat is the main plot, which is the most important part. The second part is one subplot. Okay. Now, here's a third subplot. Red is a person who's known to get things from time to time, right? I'm known to locate certain things from time to time. So we're adding a third plot. And we're learning what Red's job or position in the prison is. However, there's another subplot being introduced, the rock hammer. You think, well, Thomas, that has to do with the main plot. The subplot is that he wants a rock hammer so he could cut up rocks. It just so happens that that subplot influences the main plot. So literally, the first and third beat influence the main plot, even though the third beat of this moment is technically about a subplot. We're learning about what Red does, but it's also to get this rock hammer. Okay, now if it was a toothbrush, I mean, it's non-lethal. What do you think? He goes, fair enough. So Andy explains, which, by the way, is showing his expertise in doing rocks. Like that he understands rocks. And he goes, pickaxe for rocks. All right, this is setting up the joke that it's tiny. But where is it? You like to sink it in the head. This is showing that Andy isn't technically a violent person, right? Now, this is interesting because it also fuels the main plot. He is innocent. He's not violent. All right. He's not interested in hurting people. He doesn't have enemies. He doesn't want to have enemies. He just had a really bad day. Caught his wife cheating, right? Which, by the way, is a trope that I don't like, right? So if to get a guy out of a relationship, the beginning of the movie or story, he catches the woman cheating on him with another man. For a woman, they're usually in a bad relationship and they meet somebody better, and then the story is about them getting out of the terrible relationship and ending up with a good guy. I just don't like those tropes. Anyway, word gets around that the sisters. Oh, this is another subplot being introduced. All in this 5-minute scene, we have at least 3 or 4, 5 subplots that are really hitting. Okay. Especially Boggs, right? Okay, we're learning that it's not necessarily about them being homosexuals. It's just that that's their way of life. It's crazy, and he's like, "Oh, you gotta be careful about that." Thanks for the advice. Now we go back to the rock hammer, which is really the main purpose of why Andy even approached him in the first place, right? And he's like, "Oh, I guess you're gonna tunnel under the wall," which is funny because it is fueling or seeding not only Andy's understanding of rocks, but that is ultimately going to lead, that is in the first act, expressing the seed to the result of him actually digging through that rock, through the wall. $7 when we don't really care about. This is just a conversation. We're establishing how much it's going to cost, that there is money system in the prison. All right, waste the money. Now this is fueling another thing. This is seeding that they do surprise inspections. So it's not like, well, we need to inspect Andy's cell. Like it just doesn't happen. We're seeding that it does happen, that it's normal. But why is this important? Because when the warden comes to see Andy after Andy proves his worth with the whole you can keep every cent of the $35,000. The warden wants to talk to Andy after Andy's really proven himself. So he uses the idea of to inspect the cell as a way to get in there and basically size up Andy. So something that is common in the prison is used as a storytelling tool to get the warden and Andy to meet without it being out of the ordinary. This is just part of the process of the prison, but there's purpose behind the warden for even going. Okay. This is just the thing because originally Red is actually an Irishman in the story, so it's just funny that I like that. But maybe it's because I'm Irish. And then this is just we're understanding that Red definitely liked him. I hope that helped with Shawshank Redemption and breaking down that you can see in 5 pages. Not only did we build some character, we built some rhetoric. The articulation, the style of words for each character is very straightforward. We noticed that Andy isn't a big talker. Red is a little bit more forward as questions, right? And Andy is a little bit more guarded. We learned that Andy's not a violent person. A lot of the main plot is being influenced, introduced, and seeded. And then the subplots are also being seeded, from the sisters attacking Andy to Red being the person who can get things from time to time to the warden motivations being introduced as a seeded effort. So there's a lot of great stuff in there. I think that's pretty exciting. If you have questions about that, please pop that in the comments below. I'll be happy to go back and answer them at a later time. All right, what's next? Ooh, a Game of Thrones. All right, this should be interesting. Let's do this. Breakdown of the Game of Thrones. You ready? All right. Boop. Okay, can you see the words? Yeah, the words are big enough. Okay. Let me get some water in me. Ready? You can't hear it, but my dog is snoring really loud right now. He's sleeping. It's so funny. All right. So they went down to the crypt together. Oh, okay. All right. I don't know if you've read the story or not. This is just a moment. This is basically when Robert Baratheon, or whatever his last name is, chooses to come to visit Winterfell to speak with Ned. Specifically, his goal is to get Ned to come back as the Hand of the King. They're going into the crypt, which is at Winterfell, where all the Starks are buried. All right. They went down to the crypt together. Ned and his king, and this king he scarcely recognized. The winding stone steps were narrow. Ned went first with the lantern. I was starting to think we would never reach Winterfell, Robert complained as they descended. In the south, the way they walk about by 7 kingdoms. A man forgets that your part is as big as the other 6 combined. All right. Before we go any further, because this isn't a long thing. I only did a page, but since there's a lot to read for the novel, there's a couple things going on here. Okay. They went down to the crypt. Let's focus on the dialogue, though. I was starting to think we would never reach Winterfell. Okay. That's saying a lot about the journey from where Robert came from to Winterfell. With dialogue, we're already giving texture to the environment and the geography. Okay. Now we add a little bit more. In the South, the way they talk about my 7 kingdoms, a man forgets that your part is as big as the other 6 combined. So this is very important too, especially if you know the story of the books and the show, right? Though the show, after I believe season 5, really diverge from the books a lot, as per R.R. Martin, and also if you know the books and you've watched the show. In the South, where Robert is from, the way they talk about my 7 kingdoms, okay, because he's the king, he has, right? A man forgets that your part, and the reason is because Ned is the warden of the North, but the North is massive, and we learn later on that the North had its own king, and that ultimately the people are massive up there. Like there's just tons of people, tons of land, etc., etc. And that's seeding the inevitable truth is that they're big enough to fight back against the South if they wanted to. Ned literally ignores that statement and says, "I trust you enjoyed the journey, Your Grace." All right, so we're learning Ned wants nothing to do with that aspect. Like it's sort of like saying, "Look, it's not even the thing to worry about. Let's just move on." Ned is like, "What are you here for?" That's really what's going on, right? Robert snorts, "Bogs and forests and elds, and scarcely a decent inn north of the neck. I've never seen such a vast emptiness. Where are all your people?" All right, there's a couple things going on here. We're learning a little bit about the environment. Okay, that's important. Scarcely a decent inn north of Neck. We're getting some geography, which is also important. World building. We're learning about the world through his disdain, right? I've seen the vast emptiness, so it's just a long journey, a long nothingness. And then where are all your people? The king is like, "Hey, I'm the king. This is my 7 kingdoms. No one's here. Why isn't anyone here? There's not a lot of people." So Ned, ever the man of trying to keep everyone happy, likely they were too shy to come out. Okay. Ned jests, obviously. This is showing maybe some sort of history between the two, which we learn is true. Okay. We could feel the chill coming. We don't have to worry about it. This is all dialogue. We're analyzing dialogue. Okay. Kings are a rare sight in the North. All right. There's undertone to that. If you know the story, we are seeding the fact that there used to be kings in the North. All right. But there's no kings now. Just reinforcing that. Ned is literally reinforcing that I know there are more people in the North than the South combined. All right. But there's no kings here. Don't worry about that. But also, very rarely does the king themselves come up to the north. Like people don't really like traveling to the north because it's cold. More likely, they were hiding under the snow. Snow, Ned. All right. That's just a comment to how cold it is. There's just tons of snow in the north. Okay. Late summer snows are common enough. That's giving some history and general understanding of this environment and the world. I hope they did not trouble you. They are usually mild. So that's inferring that the winter has been coming a little stronger and a little bigger, okay? Now we're about to introduce the wildlings, but as they call them in the world, which is the others take your mild snows, right? What will this place be like in winter? I shudder to think. Okay. So again, we're seeding the fact that winter is coming and then it's going to be crazy. All right. The winters are hard, but the Starks will endure. We always have. That. There's so much in that line if you know the stories because the Starks do go through a lot. Starks were also some of the people that started the wall. Um, they're resilient. They're leaders. Even when all is lost, they find ways to overcome. Even when people die that are important. Okay. Now we get to the reason why Robert's there. You need to come south. You need a taste of summer before it flees. This is him leaking into or leaning into. Hey, I'm about to ask you to be the hand. Right? We don't really need this is all just this is not dialogue. And the girls, Ned, he exclaims. I swear, women lose all modesty in the heat. They swim naked in the river, right beneath the castle, even the streets. It's too damn hot for wool or fur, so they go around in these short gowns, silk. If they have the silver and cotton, if not, it's all the same. When they start sweating and the cloth sticks to their skin, they might as well be naked. Okay. What are we learning here? Okay, you need to come south. You need to taste the summer before it flees. All right, there's a lot going on there. He's ultimately he's trying to convince. If you notice, Robert brought up how ridiculously cold it is, how far it is, how empty it is. The North, he's very negative about the North. It's a terrible place. Then he says you need to come south. You need to taste the summer before it flees, meaning like, hey, winter's coming. You might as well come now and enjoy it. But then he says something that he thinks Stark would care about, which he doesn't because that's not how Stark is. Ned Stark. All right. And the girls, Ned. I swear women lose all their modesty in the heat. What are we saying here? We're saying the lifestyle of King's Landing and the South, the fact that Robert is probably a misogynistic pig. He probably just he's very I am the king. I will sleep with everyone, which is seeding the subplot that he has all these heirs out there like running around like babies and adults. These people that he sired. Okay. But we're also seeding the fact that he's not really all that healthy. He's he doesn't really like to travel. Um, so if we took away all the descriptive stuff, all the narrative stuff like this, we're still learning a lot, not only about the characters themselves, okay, but their relationship to one another, and also this is basically the first meeting where Robert comes to Winterfell in the first book, right? So this is after the dire wolves are found and everything like that. And we're seeing how Robert's mind works. He's like, I'm going to talk bad about the North. I'm going to say how it's a crappy travel, right? And the main plot is to get Ned Stark to the south to become the Hand, because Robert doesn't trust anybody. And he only trusts Ned because Ned's basically his best friend. He grew up with Ned. Um, and that's a really great way of using dialogue. It's not wasted dialogue. We can literally have been like, they went down to Winter. I was starting to think we would never reach Winterfell. All right. Imagine you started with like basic, casual canter, where it's just like, Ned went first with the lantern, and like, let's say Robert was like, let's say Ned was like, so how's everything though? How are you doing? All right? How was the trip? Was the trip okay? like, like, imagine that, Uh, but in this case, Robert's talking. I was starting to think we would never reach Winterfell. What if he goes, "This place is too far. There's a lot of crap going on. But how are you and the kids? Are you and the kids all right? How are you and the kids?" Right? Like, you don't need that dialogue. You don't need small talk. You just need to get to the point. Now, a way you could write like this, the way you could really get this out here, is you could technically write the subtext and then be like, how do I want to write that in character? So what would be the subtext? If I was mapping the scene out, I'd be like, Robert needs to convince Ned that the North is bad and the South is beautiful, and he should be his hand. Instead of just being, I'm the. That's what he reverts to all the time. He like, I am the king, and that's what I want, and you will be my hand, right? He's always trying to manipulate people. He's trying to trick them through, like discouragement, and then like the positives, and when he doesn't get what he wants, he goes, "But I am the king," right? Uh, but this scene, the general understanding of the scene is Robert wants to talk poorly of the North so he can show him how great the South is, to convince Ned to ultimately come and be my hand. So it's just a little insight to seeing how that works. And this ain't the first couple pages, but if we did read the first couple pages, we see this. But it's nice to see that the dialogue is being used in a way that isn't necessarily boring. Like, it's not like we're just getting to the points that are needed. And there's nothing wrong with rambling on. But when you get to, your second, third, or fourth draft, you have to learn, like, well, what is the most important thing that I'm trying to say here? I need to get him to the South. So how do I just kind of like move through that? So that's something to keep in mind. All right, next. The Rookie. I love this show, by the way. I just want to put that out there. I thought it was going to be like I was like, let me check this show out. And then I was like, the show's really good. I didn't think it would be good, but it was good. And I was like, I got to watch the show. So now I watch it. It's falling into a couple like, patterns that I don't really like about shows, but overall, this is a great show. All right. Again, let's just look at the dialogue. Banks open, John. Hey. All right. So I'll just read through it. It's not that many. What is it? It's a couple lines, a couple pages, right? This is the actual opening. It says Act 1. You see how they write that on the script? They write that in the scripts for like TV shows. Act 1. All right. Banks open, John. All right. John's the main character. Stacy clearly knows who John is. All right. Stacy, 42. The bank manager smiles with genuine warmth. Banks open, John. So even if we didn't read this, we have to see the dialogue and understand that we have to. There has to be a familiarity, right? A familiar element to them. So happy divorce day. That's not a thing. It should be. When mine went through, I took the boys to Disneyland. That's different. Pete was bad news since high school. We all tried to warn you, but he was such a good kisser. All right. We're learning a lot about who Stacy is. We're learning about a little bit about Nolan. We're learning that Nolan knows Stacy and grew up. We're learning that Nolan recognized that Pete was a bad news. He was bad news in high school. All right. We learn that he tried to warn her. We learn his personality and that he has good intentions and he's looking out for people. That's literally the first big exchange between them. We're also learning that John is starting off this show with a divorce, that it's difficult. And we're seeing that Stacy's saying a divorce could be a great thing. It's good, which is ultimately seeding the fact that maybe it is good. And, Nolan takes a chance. So let's go to the next moment. So what's the grand plan now? You're single and Henry's off at college. Chippendales or the NFL? I haven't decided. That's obviously a joke. If you've seen Nolan, he's in his 40s, right? So we learn a little. All right, Nolan has a child who's off at college, so that's good. Always write off the kids. That's what you do in shows. You always write off the kids. I don't know why. They always write off the kids. If they're babies, somebody's always watching them. I mean, I know why, but it's just funny because Henry's old enough to be an adult on the show, and they just, and then he slowly sneaks into the show, and then they write him off again. Anyway, okay, so I haven't decided. So this is all very new, but we needed this line because it introduces Henry. Okay, let's move on. I'd go with stripping, less risk of an ACL tear. Although the way you dance, all right, we're saying Nolan can't dance. Good. I bought a self-help book. I made the cashier put it in a brown paper bag. I can't bring myself to open it. How did I get here? I think the healthier question is, where do you go now? A lot of this is pushing forward. Like Stacy is saying, look, that happened to you. It's horrible, but you should be thinking about the next step. You should be thinking about the positive element of it. Well, thanks, because that's one. That one's a total mystery. People keep telling me I've started the next chapter of my life, but all the pages are blank. And don't tell me it's mine to write. I wasn't, but it is. Okay. We're adding the elements and themes of the show, by the way. The elements and themes of the show is that at any age, you have a chance to start your life over and create new careers and do something with yourself. So it's nice that those elements are being there. You're a good man, John Nolan. You'll figure it out. All right. Couple things. This is literally telling. I'm not a fan of telling. You're a good man. She's just saying it. But we've already established elements of goodness and rapport with John. So it's okay that we put a period on it with you're a good man. And then she says John Nolan, just so we know who he is, his whole name as a character. You'll figure it out. Which is also saying that John Nolan's a smart character and that she knows he's capable. Okay? All right. Do you want to go over the pistol part? I'll go over the pistol part. Okay. Everybody on the floor now. Okay. I guess the character's name is Pistol. Everyone on the floor now. Get down. Get down. Fill it. Hurry up. Who's the bank manager? All right. So this is clearly the guy with the shotgun. This is clearly the guy with the pistol. Get up, bitch. Hey. All right. So right off the bat, high energy, high stress, high anxiety moment. And what does Nolan do? Hey, takes action. Why? Because that's in his nature. Even though he's having the worst day of his life right now through divorce and he doesn't know what he's going to do with his life, it's who he is. He is someone that does right and does it. Get back down now. Are you okay? We're also seeing that he is interested in people and that he has empathy. Right? He's like he's really concerned. Like, are you okay? Do you want to die? And he's like, no, I don't. But honestly, have I even really lived? So he's literally having like a real philosophical moment right now while trying to help this guy. Well, trying to stop what's going on. I mean, my whole life's been about being responsible, playing it safe, doing what's expected rather than what I want. This bank robbery is the most exciting thing that's happened to me in years. Is that sad? It sounds sad. Hey, the vault. Not that you're in a position to judge. Clearly, your life hasn't turned out how you wanted, unless you wanted to be bank robbers, in which case you're living the dream. Police, drop your weapons. Well, chapter 2 certainly started with a bang. You were really stupid. Brave. How do you think I'd look in uniform? right? Because he's watching the cops, whatever. Okay, that moves off. All right, so that intro, if we would go over this, this is really nice because even in the heat of battle, basically high energy, he's able to stay calm and collective. We're learning who he is like that. But I mean, my whole life's been about being responsible, playing it safe, doing what's expected rather than what I want. Right. So we're learning who he was and that changing. This is also the inciting incident, just so you know. If I was actually to show you uh all this is the ordinary world. We're actually seeing John's ordinary world quickly. His ordinary world is he just got a divorce. He was married. He has kids. He knows everybody in that town. He grew up there. This is his place. He doesn't really know what he wants to do next. So we're learning his motivations. I have to figure out who I am. Self-help book. Life. This is a chance to start over, and who he is. All that was done basically in 2 pages, right? Yeah, it's 2 pages. Okay, so that's 2 minutes of screen time. In the first opening is the ordinary world. The pistol people come in. This is the inciting incident. Okay, hey, put the gun down. Put the gun down. Hey, you should put the gun down. You should put the gun down. No, hey, put the gun down. And then he's like, honestly, then he has a moment of reflection. I mean, my whole life has been this bank robbery is the most exciting thing about my life. And he's like, man, I really have I really lived? Have I truly lived? And everything's coming to his mind. And now we have the reflection, right, of the inciting incident, which is not this part. This right here, where he goes, more cops flood the bank. Nolan watches them, mesmerized as they cuff the robbers, take action to control the scene. And in that moment, Nolan sees his future. He looks at Stacy. How do you think I'd look in a uniform? High energy song kicks in. I love television scripts. I just want you to know because there's stuff that's like that. So within 5 minutes, well, less than, it's like 4.5 minutes, but because this is probably 2/8 of a page. If you don't know, that's how you map out a script. You basically eighth out the page, and then that's how you figure out your sections. But anyway, so within 5 minutes, we understand who John is, where he comes from. We learn that his life is up in the air. We learn about his family. We see how he is within the energy of the robbery, which is important because to be a cop, really, you got to be able to stay cool and calm. We also see that he knows how to talk to people. He's good with talking to people. He's friendly with people, both who he knows and who are threatening him. And then we're introduced to his ability to say, hey, I think there's something else going on in my life where it's about time I start trying to do something that I feel passionate about. And all the dialogue says that. Nothing is really wasted. Even this, like if we go back to what we would consider small talk, it's not because it has purpose. So happy divorce day is different than how are you doing? I'm doing all right. Are you okay with what's going on? I'm sorry it's happening. Yeah, I'll get over it. Like there's no information, there's no data. We just know that potentially he's having a bad day and she knows he's having a bad day. So why don't we put all that into there and add some energy? So happy for divorce day. That's not a thing. It should be. When mine went through, I took the boys to Disneyland. That's different. Pete was a bad guy. So the small talk is actually telling us about the characters, mostly Nolan, and his main plot for this episode. Okay. And the main plot of the overall first season. But we're learning a lot about him in 5 interactions. Okay. No line is wasted here. So happy divorce day. What's going on with Nolan? Today is the divorce day. It's finalized. Nolan, that's not a thing. Okay, we're seeing his personality with somebody. We're seeing how he looks at it, you know. And then Stacy's like, it should be when mine went. Now this is all personal too. This is very personal, but we know that he knows her, which it's a small town. He knows everybody in the small town. He grew up in the small town. That's ultimately what that's the subtext is. It should be when mine went through. I took the boys to Disneyland. So we're seeing that Stacy's positive, but she's also being a friend here. She's trying to make what Nolan is dealing with, her friend, seem like a good thing for potential change. That this is not the end of your life. Um, and then Nolan, we're seeing, like I said earlier, we're seeing that he has a protective and instinctual personality towards people. That's different. Pete was bad news since high school. He could read people. We all tried to warn you that, people, he's a part of, that's the other thing. We all tried to warn you, saying that he surrounds himself with good people, like-minded people. And, he knows how to pick good people around his life, right? But he was such a good kisser, right? So that's just the moment of Stacy, which is great. And that's the thing. That's the thing with dialogue. All right, we're not just analyzing dialogue here. I'm showing you that there's more to dialogue than people are saying stuff. It has to be more than people are saying stuff, which brings us to the final thoughts. There's something about each of these examples. First, the dialogue gets out information that informs the plots, services the main plot mostly, and shows who characters are by what they say and what they are talking about specifically. When you work on your dialogue, let it flow out of you. Don't worry if it's good yet. Get it on the page. Next, go through it. From there, read it out loud to see if you are hitting the points to move the main plot forward. Ultimately, any added subplot points that you need, you could place in there. Are make sure those are there, and are the characters shining through? That's very important too. Like the way they talk, like their dialogue choices is character, right? The things they're concerned about in their responses is character. Okay. One thing that helps me personally is I start with, what do I need to say? I jot down in my outline the important elements that need to be explored in the scene or section. For example, I have to make sure that XYZ is mentioned to seed the main plot. What is the main plot? Maybe it's that the character is tired of being trapped home and unable to explore the world. So I want to see the world and I am tired of being trapped here, might be what I write in that moment as dialogue. And I'll do that throughout the conversation and see where it goes. It'll just be straightforward dialogue, right? Back and forth. Then I go back and filter in any subplots in the dialogue. Now, the fun part. Who are these characters? Now, if I take all those elements and I go, this was the subtext, but literally said direct, like verbatim. Now I filter in some character, and what might it look like with character, subplots, and main plots really popped in there? I want to see the world, and I'm tired of being trapped here. Becomes Christine says, Uncle told me about Messer City. Imagine me, a farm kid from the small town of Gora, walking through the streets of Messer. Mother. I dread the idea of you lost roaming those filthy streets. Here, you're safe. There, every corner is a turn into danger. Her daughter's eyes fade over with the possibility of those adventures. Mother, I know that look. Close that up and get back to your chores. Christine, yes, mother. From one line of dialogue, I turned it into a conversation filled with plot points and character. How so? We know she has the motivation to see the world beyond the farm. This is the main plot. We learn she has a relationship with her uncle. Is the uncle alive? Who knows? But that's a subplot. The uncle lives not here, but somewhere else. We learn that the city is dangerous that she wants to go explore. Well, from the mother's perspective. This sets up a subplot of the city itself, but also adds value and mystery to what awaits Christine if she ever makes it to the city. We're seeding the dangers for when the dangers actually happen, or if they don't happen, right? Another because it might be like it's dangerous, and then they get there and they realize this ain't dangerous. This is actually awesome. My mother was holding me back, right? Another subplot is the relationship of her and her mother and how she is overly protective of her. And of course, what's her ordinary world? She works on a farm. They do not travel, and her mother is overly protective of her. At the end of the day, You want to read dialogue out loud, and you'll be able to hear if it flows right. But you're also trying to say to yourself, am I getting out what I need to get out? That's showcasing not only the characters and their motivations, but am I fueling the main plot, subplots, and seeding the potential earned results of things? So stuff isn't just happening, but things are being earned to happen. Dialogue is so powerful when you allow it to be more. And this is the other thing. I want to see the world, and I am tired of being trapped here, is a great place to start, because now how do you say that in a conversation? And how do you open up the world? Uncle told me about Messer City. Imagine me, a farm girl from the small town of Gora, walking through the streets of Messer. I dread the idea of you lost roaming those filthy streets. Here you're safe. There, every corner is a turn into danger. Oh, Jesus. I know that look. Close that up and get back to your chores. Yes, mother. There's so much going on, and that's 4 lines of dialogue with one main lack of dialogue, but action, like a reaction to the statement, right? And I got that from one line of dialogue that is subtext. I was like, this is literally the subtext written out. I want to see the world, and I'm tired of being trapped here. Then I turned it into a relationship between two characters, in this case, a mother-daughter. I opened up the world. I showcased the world. I explained where they are, right? I gave some environment, and I gave some geography. They're on a farm, in the small town of Gora, right? Whatever. Let your dialogue be powerful in that way, where it says more, even though it's with less, right? So, and when you find the flow from reading out the dialogue out loud, when you find that flow and the feel of it and see that a story is moving forward, your dialogue is working for you. Because when you're reading it out, you might find out you're just talking. Like maybe it's small talk, or maybe nothing's technically being said, or maybe you're saying stuff far too directly. And it's okay to be direct, by the way. You can be like, Ma, I can't stand it here. I hate it. I want to adventure. I feel trapped here. I hate it here. You can write that. But you can also say, well, how do I make that? How do I add my voice, my personality as a writer? How do I create a little bit more growth? How do I take that one moment and expand it and make something bigger out of it, but with less? The less is that the big statement of, I can't stand this place, mother. Why do you keep me here? I feel trapped. I would rather be exploring the world, right? I could say that. That's the big moment. But instead, you make little moments that turn into a scene, and it makes the scene so much more powerful. Once all this is done, by the way, and you're ready to have your alpha readers give you feedback, your beta readers will tell you if your characters are coming alive on the page. So alpha readers will go back and say, hey, what you're writing makes sense or doesn't make sense. And what your beta readers are basically there to say is, I see these as separate characters, and I see their thoughts and motivations. So that's something to think about when you're working on your dialogue. I hope that helped. Anyway, the next video in the series will be about me going to explore dialogue for beginners. In that video, I'll show you how to write dialogue using the above rules I showed you in real time, and also other tools that will help you get the dialogue from you to the page through your characters. Question. Other than George Lucas, in your opinion, who writes some of the best dialogue in novels, films, or television? Let me know in the comments below. Obviously, that's a joke, because the sand, I don't like sand. It's coarse. It gets everywhere. Yeah, so anyway, other than George Lucas. So in your opinion, who writes some of the best dialogue in novels, film, or television? Pick whichever one you want. Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. If you want to learn more about how to improve your craft inside of the industry and hear from fellow writers, as per our The Right Mindset podcast, where we talk to authors of all levels, we learn, hit that subscribe button. Click that bell icon. Let's see where it goes. You know what I'm saying? Anyway. All right. Time for some lunch. As always, keep developing the right mindset. I'll see you next time.